Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Stasia and I'm following a high carb, low fat, oil-free plant-based diet based on the recommendations of Dr. John McDougall's book called The Starch Solution. I apologize in advance if you can hear that humming sound. I have my air running because despite it being a cloudy, rainy day today, it is very humid here in Ontario, Canada. So hopefully that humming is not too loud in the background. Okay, so if it's your first time here, my channel is all about my own personal health and weight loss journey, as well as helping you with yours. So I welcome you to check out my channel. I have tons of what I eat in a day videos, recipe videos, chit chat type of videos about this lifestyle and things that I've learned along the way. So I welcome you to stick around, check out my channel. I'm confident that you will find something helpful. In addition to that, I also run an amazing Facebook group where there's over 2,500 active members every single day. So if you're new to this lifestyle or you're just looking to bond with other people within the community, then it is a perfect place. We talk about our successes, our struggles, we ask questions, we share recipes. It's all there happening every single day. So the link for my Facebook group will be posted in the description box below. We would love to have you. And also, I am recently very new on Instagram. My account just opened up about a week or so ago. So be sure to check me out over there. It's been a long time coming. Many of you have asked for it. So I am happy to say I am finally on there. And I'm super excited about interacting with all of you over on Instagram as well. You can find me at Getting Healthy with Stasia. So I will look forward to seeing you over there. Don't be shy, say hello, and I'll be sure to say hi back. All right, enough chit chat, let's get into it. So what to do if your bloating and gas will not go away following a high carb, low fat, plant-based diet? This has got to be one of the #1 questions and concerns that people have, aside from the protein debate, but yeah, that's a whole other video. But in all seriousness, it is a valid concern and worth addressing. So I'm going to start this off by saying that if you're new to a whole food plant-based diet, coming off of a predominantly standard American diet, then it is completely normal to be experiencing a little bit, or maybe in some cases, a lot more gas and bloating than usual. The reason for this is that the amount of fiber you're probably now eating is a lot more than the amount that you were eating on a standard American diet. Especially if your diet consisted of eating a lot of meat and cheese and other dairy products, then it is perfectly normal that switching over to a whole food plant-based diet that you would experience some amount of bloating and gas. Almost all the foods we eat in this lifestyle are pretty rich in fiber, especially when compared to foods such as cheese and meat that virtually have no fiber at all. So if that sounds like you, then my best advice would be just to go slowly and give it time. Especially go slowly with some things such as beans or brown rice that maybe your body's just not used to eating and digesting, because those ones can actually cause a lot more gas and bloating than maybe some of the other things such as potatoes or sweet potatoes. Let's take beans, for example, because they can be a nasty one for gas and bloating without a doubt, but they are super healthy and completely underrated in my own personal opinion. They are full of antioxidants, vitamins, fiber. They are just so good for you. They help curb cravings. They help keep you full for longer than probably anything else I would personally debate. Although I'm sure some might argue that, but that's just my personal opinion. So don't give up on beans. But taking that as an example, you can just start slowly, even if that means just a tablespoon a day or a tablespoon every other day, and literally crawl your way up to a point where you can tolerate half a cup or 3/4 of a cup or whatever the case. But if you have not eaten beans in years, I would strongly suggest not just jumping into sitting down and eating a full cup of beans tonight for dinner. Because yes, the chances are great that you may experience some severe bloating and gas that you can otherwise avoid. So just go slowly. Give it some time, and I would say it would probably take anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to start seeing your body adjust to this new lifestyle. And eventually you will notice that the gas and the bloating starts to really die down, and in some cases it might go away altogether. I personally used to be able to just look at a bean and I would get bloated, and now I can eat, anywhere from a half a cup to 1.5 cups a day with almost no gas. Like, I'm not even exaggerating you when I say that, but I'm gonna get into that a little bit later in the video, as well as give you some tips and tricks as far as preparing beans and stuff to also reduce that gas and bloating. Okay, so what happens if you are not new to this whole food plant-based lifestyle and you're still experiencing tons of gas and bloating? I know this is a very common problem. I see it a lot in my Facebook group. I've seen it a lot in the comments. So definitely there are some reasons for it and also some solutions. So if you've been following this lifestyle for months, or maybe even in some cases for years, why would this be happening? In a lot of cases when this is happening, the reason is most likely that you may have a compromised gut. So what exactly does that even mean? Well, considering I'm not a doctor or specialist of any kind, I'm just gonna give you my very simple layman's terms explanation. So basically, we all have a gut flora consisting of healthy bacteria and not so healthy bacteria. Well, after years of possible abuse via food, alcohol, or even environmental factors, and sometimes as a result, there ends up being an imbalance between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, and that's when we run into issues, is when the bad bacteria is unfortunately dominating your gut. And it can cause a whole host of issues. We've got the bloating, anywhere from mild to extreme bloating, constipation, diarrhea, gas like you've never experienced before. It can cause a ton of problems, and it honestly leaves a ton of people scratching their heads thinking, what the heck is going on with me? And it's perfectly normal to be confused about that. I mean, really, we're sitting here thinking, I'm eating the healthiest foods, I've cleaned my diet up, I'm eating super clean, so why is my stomach so angry with me? It can be completely frustrating, like frustrating enough to just throw the towel in altogether, thinking this food is making me sick, it's not making me feel healthy. I have been there and done it, so I know from personal experience how this feels. But let me tell you, you are in the right place eating a whole food, plant-based diet for your health. But it might just take some time to get to the point that your stomach can tolerate all of these foods. But in fairness, it took years in most cases for our guts to be this way, so I guess we shouldn't expect to just be perfect overnight. So if this sounds like it might be you, then I do have a ton of suggestions that you can do to help with your bloating and your gas in the meantime until you get to that point where you no longer have to worry about it. But with that being said, there could be many other reasons that you could be struggling on a whole food plant-based diet when it comes to any type of indigestion, bloating, gas, constipation, diarrhea, etc. So my best advice would be to consult with your family doctor, get a series of tests to maybe see if there's something more serious as an underlying condition that could be causing these problems, and or you could also seek out a naturopath that will also be able to help identify any underlying causes. You definitely want to rule out anything serious before assuming that it's not. Okay, so before jumping into my suggestions, I strongly recommend that you check out one of my videos where I explain my own personal story of how I healed myself from some mystery illness that literally just happened overnight. It had a lot to do with my stomach, and as I was mentioning before, I experienced a lot of distress trying to eat a whole food plant-based diet. So believe me when I tell you, I know exactly how frustrating it can be when you feel like you're doing all the right things and eating perfectly clean and it still isn't helping anything. So in that video, I go into more detail about exactly what happened to me and exactly what I did to heal myself. So I cannot recommend that enough. Many have found my story very helpful and very encouraging, so I will have that link posted in my description box below, so be sure to check it out. So as for some of my suggestions, I actually wrote them down, so I'm just gonna read them right off the list to you guys. I didn't wanna miss anything. So the first one is something I already previously mentioned before, and that's to stick with potatoes a little bit more than the grains. They were a lot easier and more gentle on my stomach than any of the grains were. I found grains and beans to be like the literal death of my stomach. They were horrible, horrible to digest and would leave me looking like I was about 8 or 9 months pregnant. They were just terrible. So if you are someone who experiences a lot of bloating and a lot of gas, then I would have my diet at this point be probably predominantly your sweet potatoes or your potatoes or even some of the squashes. I found butternut squash to also be pretty gentle on my stomach. So yeah, that would be a strong recommendation, is to go very slowly with the grains and the beans. Like I was mentioning before, even if it's just a tablespoon or two at a time until you work your way up to a point where you can better digest them. And in the meantime, just stick with the potatoes and even the squashes. Okay, so my next suggestion would be to cook your vegetables really, really well. While for a healthy person who has a healthy gut flora, eating a beautiful, large, raw salad is a wonderful nutritional thing to do. It's just not possible for someone with a compromised gut. And let me tell you, I had to learn that one the hard way time and time again, because I just couldn't accept that something so healthy and so good for me was actually harming me. But at the time, I actually could not break it down properly, which caused all kinds of bloating, all kinds of gas. It was just horrible. And then the more research I did, the more I discovered that, hey, if I just cook these vegetables, it's kind of like the cooking pre-digests the food for you, so your stomach doesn't have to work as hard. But when it's raw, it has to work really hard, extra hard. So that's not a good thing if it's already struggling. So cook your vegetables really, really well, and it will help reduce that gas and bloating. So that actually ties into my next suggestion, which is to reduce or eliminate raw foods for the time being. As much as I love raw food, such as our fruits and vegetables, and I mean, they are probably one of the healthiest ways that you can consume them, but not when you have a compromised gut. So for the time being, I would recommend, even in some cases, cooking your fruit. At the time when my stomach was really, really crazy, if I ate an apple, I would be bloated. If I took that same apple and cooked it into some applesauce, I was totally fine. So believe me when I tell you, even the fruit makes a difference if you eat it raw or you eat it cooked. Have you ever tried baked apple or baked banana? If you haven't, let me tell you, you will not feel like you're missing out on anything. Another great way to get some of those cooked veggies in is to just have a very basic soup. Soups, as most of you who have been following me, you know that I'm a huge fan of soups. They are just so easy. They're one and done meals. All your veggies are cooked really well, so they're excellent for somebody who has a compromised gut. And in addition to that, if weight loss is also one of your goals following a whole food plant-based diet, then it's a win-win. Be sure to check out my video where I talk about preloading, predominantly preloading with soup over salad, because I go into great detail explaining how it is an excellent tool for weight loss, something that is actually recommended right on Dr. McDougall's website. So be sure to check out that video. I will post that link in my description box below. Another one of my suggestions, something that I had also mentioned very briefly earlier that I said I'd talk about later in the video, was about the beans. So one tip that I can give you regarding the beans is to soak them very, very well. That is going to help significantly to reduce your gas and bloating. So I actually soak my beans anywhere from 8 to 12 hours and sometimes even more. Just if you're gonna soak it longer, then you wanna just change that water through at least once just to rinse them off and put some fresh water on the beans. But definitely soaking the beans is going to significantly reduce that gas and bloating. So another thing that I've noticed is that using my Instant Pot to cook the beans makes a world's difference as well. I've read a few things online that using a pressure cooker to cook the beans does actually reduce bloating. So between soaking them really long, using them in a pressure cooker or Instant Pot, those two things alone are going to help cut the gas and the bloating. Also, I find that when you cook your beans at home, rather than buying the canned beans, that also reduces the gas and bloating. I actually don't ever buy canned beans anymore. I mean, I guess I have some in my storage room just for, you know, in a pinch or something like that. But if I already know what meal I'm preparing and I have time to do that, I never use canned beans in my recipes anymore. Not since cooking them in the Instant Pot. I just find that they turn out super, super soft. I don't use any salt when I'm preparing them. They just taste better in every single recipe when you make them yourself. And I find that I get zero gas at all. Like, I'm not kidding when I say I don't get gas when I eat my own homemade cooked beans. Again, the soaking, the Instant Pot, and the no canned beans, the dry beans. I just find that those three things together allows me to eat pretty much as many beans as I want with absolutely no distress in my stomach whatsoever. Okay, so another suggestion is to keep your sugars low. I think that fruits are probably fine, still keep those to a minimum, and we already talked about how to prepare those. Probably best to experiment with maybe cooking your fruits, but definitely stay away from dried fruits. They caused me all kinds of bloating and distress, as well as maple syrup. I find that with a compromised gut, the fermentation that happens in your stomach when you eat sugar causes a ton of bloating, so definitely try to keep those sugars low. Okay, so the last few suggestions were actually things that I did to heal myself as well as catch some relief in the process. So what I did was I drank a lot of ginger tea. I'm not talking about the kind that you buy at the store. You can easily whip up some ginger tea for yourself in the kitchen. Just buy some ginger from your local grocery store, preferably organic, but don't worry about it if it's not. Peel it, dice it into really small pieces, throw it into a pot of boiling water, and let it simmer for about 15 or 20 minutes and drink it while it's warm. I found that helped a lot to reduce my bloating, and also at the time I was experiencing a lot of nausea, so of course it helped with that too. Another thing that I consumed a lot was my homemade ginger ale. I've actually made a video showing this exact recipe, but my only advice would be to omit the vinegar if you do have a compromised gut. You can try it with it. Again, if you do, go slowly, see how your stomach reacts. Otherwise, you can just actually leave the vinegar out altogether, and the recipe is still fantastic. Okay, and the last thing that I did, which if you guys already have seen my story, then you probably know what I'm about to say, and that is juicing. Vegetable juicing, I really believe, saved my life, gave me my life back. I cannot say enough about it. I know that there's all kinds of debates within the plant-based world to juice, to not to juice, smoothies. I personally feel like there doesn't necessarily have to be two camps, the smoothie camp or the juice camp. I feel like there's a place for both with good reason. No one is talking about juicing exclusively so that we never have any fiber at all in our diets, because yes, juicing removes the fiber, but juicing also does a lot of other things and has many benefits because of the micronutrients. And for somebody who has a compromised stomach, it is the fiber that really does us over. So I found that juicing was just an incredible way to still get in a high amount of nutrition, as well as getting in those raw vegetables that I was so deflated that I could not consume at that time. So again, I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I will post that link in my description box below, but I go into great detail discussing how I healed myself, and juicing was definitely one of the main things that I did. And today I can eat just about anything that I want to eat without any type of bloating or distress in my stomach at all. So definitely check that out. I'm sure you'll find it helpful. So if you've tried all of those suggestions and they are not working for you, or maybe they are working for you, but you still want to get down to the nitty-gritty of what's possibly causing all this bloating and this gas, then the last two things that I would really recommend doing, in addition to all of those other things, or separate from those other things, is to keep a journal of everything you're eating. I can't stress enough how helpful it is to understand what your trigger foods might be, and keeping a journal will help you identify what they are. Like I was saying before, potatoes and squash, I came to know were a little bit more gentle on my stomach than grains and beans, and I only knew that because I was keeping track of them to figure out, when I ate beans or when I had rice, I was extremely bloated, but when I had a little bit of sweet potato or some mashed potato, it wasn't quite as bad. So identifying those trigger foods through keeping a daily journal of what you're eating will definitely help you to reduce that gas and bloating until your stomach can one day handle them. In addition to the journal helping you identify those trigger foods, try having mono meals as well. That's also an excellent way to figure out if there's some foods that might cause you a little bit more digestive distress than others. So instead of having a bunch of veggies as a stir fry, pick one veggie and just eat that alone and see how your stomach reacts. Or instead of doing the 50-50 plate where you have starch on one side and your non-starchy veggies on the other side, you are not going to be able to know what caused that bloating or that gas. So try just having just a plate of rice. Start with brown rice, see how that goes. Maybe the next time you can try just white rice and see how that goes. Have a plate of just regular potatoes, next time have a plate of sweet potatoes. So those mono meals will really help you identify those trigger foods, and then in the process, you keep track of them through your journal, and you're gonna end up eventually developing what I used to call my safe foods and my trigger foods. And then until your stomach heals, you can kind of just tend to stay on your safe foods list, and then eventually slowly work your way up with those trigger foods. Okay guys, so with all that being said, I would also like to add, don't forget to have some patience with this. Whether you're new to this lifestyle or, like I said, whether you've been doing it for a long time, have some patience. Eventually, you can find yourself in a place where you are easily able to tolerate all these wonderful foods without having to worry about any type of digestive distress, gas, or bloating. I hope you found this video helpful, and I hope that some of my suggestions might work for you. If it's your first time here and you'd like to follow along my own personal health and weight loss journey following a whole food plant-based diet and get all my recipes, all my tips and tricks that I'm learning along the way, then be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Thank you so much to all of you who have always been following my channel and supporting my channel. I couldn't do it without you. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.